Hello, beautifuls. Welcome to episode 3. I am Showy Moon, one of your co-hosts for this incredible, phenomenal, not only podcast, but movement. We are 2 days away from launching and we are so excited.
Hey guys, I'm Pippa and I'm a co-host as well. And I think because we're 2 days away, it's the 26th of February today when you listen to this, 2024. We're 2 days away from launch. We're 16 away from 400 followers. And I just know
Yeah.
when we listen back to this in like a year's time, we're going to be like, holy shit, we've got like 12,000 followers, 50,000 followers. Because the movement, like it's the ripple effect, isn't it? It's the ripple effect that we're creating with this podcast. I can't stop thinking about it. It's all I talk about in my day-to-day life.
Mhm. Yeah, and you can feel it. And I know that Pippa and I were speaking before we started recording that so many people are coming on board for this feeling, this movement and this rawness and authenticity and these conversations that need to come to the light. And it's such a beautiful, not that we needed it, but almost this validation of like, well done for listening to your intuition, because you are creating what is being manifested in. You're listening to the collective, they're asking for it, and you're bringing it. So it feels amazing. And we're already so grateful. Like I was sharing on my stories last night, and I was going to say, we're almost at 400 followers, but what felt more true was like we're almost at a 1400 wide community, like 400 wide community, and expanding this like community aspect already feels really prevalent in this podcast space.
It really does. And we've obviously got to get through the questions that you asked me last week, but we're actually going to be doing a little recording at the end of today, and it's going to be just the behind the scenes for our Patreons. And we're going to dive into a big topic today, which it could be multiple episodes. It's this
Yeah.
topic is a big topic, and I think we're going to save some of the real, like maybe just some one or two truths each about the self-love journey. So that's our topic today, self-love. Think about when you think of self-love, it's wide, it's expansive, it's huge. It's like there's so many levels to it. Shawi and I have obviously got a different journey with self-love. We might have some similarities with self-love. And that's what I love about this podcast, is because we're diving into these topics and I'm actually getting to know you as we're talking about it, and you're getting to
Yeah.
know me. And then at the end, when we finish recording, we're going to record a little episode for our Patreon. So make sure you check it out and join us, because that's kind of the raw, more of the rawness. We're already raw here, but we're going to save maybe some of the struggles we've had and some of the big things that have happened to us in the self-love journey. So please join us over there. It'd be really great to have you in there. So the three questions you asked me
Hmm.
was, if I was on death row, I love how you said death row, what would be your last meal? So if I chose to leave Earth today, what would be my last meal? Now I sat with this and I was like, there's two meals there's a childhood meal and there's an adult meal.
Hmm.
So my childhood meal would be chicken nuggets. I am obsessed with chicken nuggets.
That's so
I just sit eating
good.
chicken nuggets, and I had them yesterday at my lunch. I got the gluten-free chicken nuggets, the Ingham's, and I was like, oh, these are so good. And my adult meal would be dumplings.
What a good
Dumplings are
answer.
just. I did a video last week on my
Yeah.
stories and my reels.
On dumplings.
I've been gluten-free since 2021.
Hmm.
I went gluten-free and I was like, this is quite easy, but I miss certain foods. I just miss sourdough, dumplings, the odd muffins, and chicken nuggets. So I thought, how can I keep these in my diet without having gluten flare-ups? So I read an article about like keeping your tolerance for gluten, because if you have like gluten flare-ups and stuff. And this relates to self-love, because honestly, it does. I was like, I ain't gonna cut out four of my favorite foods because I'm not going to enjoy the process of going gluten-free. So maybe once
Mm.
a week, maybe every 2 weeks, I'll have like dumplings, which I am obsessed with, the odd muffin, chicken nuggets, and my sourdough bread, and I'm happy. I am happy.
And I think it's at really knowing yourself, right? What a good segue. I know we're going to come back to the other questions. Funny, I'm vegan and gluten-free as well. And yeah, I think it's just that knowing your body, knowing your body, knowing yourself, and knowing the why behind things. Like a conversation that's come up with me recently is like, why am I saying no to the thing? Like, why am I saying no? What's the reason behind it? Is this an element of trying control because I feel safe in it, or is it for my well-being? And the answer to that will always be different. But I love how you've come into the space of like, okay, so what's my why? What's my no to cutting this thing out? And can I have some leeway around that, or does it have to be like this? And I love that. It's such a great reflection.
Thanks. I had to share it because I'm like, that's if you cut all your favorite foods out, you're gonna be miserable. You
It's
really
one thing I
are.
say to people who, yeah,
Yeah.
they ask me all the time. I said, you have to find the alternatives.
Mm.
You have to find alternatives if you can before you start eliminating things. Otherwise, you'll become resentful in it and you won't stick to it. And the amount of people, because obviously I'm vegan, that are like, I could never cut out cheese. I'm like, look, if you want to minimize dairy because you're listening to your body and that's not the thing right now, take out all the other things and maybe transition into something else. But it's like just do what you can within your capacity right now. But
Oh
yeah, don't
yeah.
take away the joys of life. Like I'm an incredible gluten-free vegan baker, and
Yeah.
I had to be because of my kids, because we had to. And so for me, I'm like, I know I still get those, like sweet treats, and I still get those hits, and because it fucking feels good to eat good food. And it's, I think, being present in that experience as opposed to that I'm now beating myself up because I'm eating a food, I'm now beating myself up. Like those two different energies are polar opposites. So you're like, I'm choosing these things, which isn't like most of my diet, but I'm going in with like, I fucking love this and it
I do.
feels good. And I would have
Dumplings
this
are
as my
just,
last food.
oh, I can eat them right now. So, like on the back of what you just said is like, again, this relates to self-love so much is as women, I mean, men do this too,
Oh,
but women, we try and change so much too quickly. So, like, I'm starting a
mm,
diet on Monday. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. I'm going to walk every morning. It's like you put all this pressure on you. And by Wednesday, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't do this. Like, it's too much. I remember reading a book called Atomic Habits.
yeah.
And in that, he said exact same thing. We try and change too much, and our capacity, we
Mhm,
can't do it. We end up crumbling. We're like, we can't do all this. It's like what you've just said. You want to go vegan? Awesome. Why, explore why you want to go vegan. What are the reasons
mhm,
behind it? And can you do it slowly and gradually? Like,
mm, mm.
hats off to you if you can just kind of cut everything out. But I would miss cheese. I mean, cheese is probably the main thing. I don't have a lot of milk. I don't have a lot of yogurt. So it's like mostly cheese. But it's like he said in the book, if we change 1% of our life per day over a
Mhm,
year, that's a 30% increase, which is
mhm.
huge. Think of that every year. So that was kind of like it sat with me that, and I thought, okay, so if you're going to introduce something, and then Joe Dispenza said, what's it now? It's the when neurons wire, what is it? When neurons wire together, what is it now? He said it on the video. It's neural pathways. He's talking about like the habitual things. When
Absolutely. That
Yeah,
create the
it's like when
foundation for the actual
neuros. Oh,
pathways.
that's it. When
Yeah.
neuros fire together, they wire together. So if you, that's
Mm,
basically what's happening in your brain. So if you're getting up at like 6 a.m. every morning to do like meditation, journaling, a walk, and you're doing that consistently, that is going to stick in your brain. It's like the conditioning of like brushing our teeth every morning, getting dressed, the
mhm,
conscious stuff. But those neurons said, well, once they wire
mm,
together, they fire together, so they stick. And that's why
mm.
like people who have to start taking medicine or vitamins every morning, you just get used to doing it because it's become habitual.
The
So
small things over
all
time, right?
things,
And
yeah.
trusting the process of the small things over time. And there's a great conversation in this around what we're actually psychologically perpetuating. And so often what we can do is set these like big goals that are actually unachievable, but we're psychologically putting that expectation on ourselves so that we can fail, so we can perpetuate the shame
Sabotage,
cycle.
self-sabotage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't even realize we're doing it, but because there's a hard wiring, if we've had this hard wiring around like I'm a failure, I'm unworthy, like I don't deserve good health, I don't deserve abundance, or whatever it is that's sitting there psychologically in the patterning, you don't even realize that you're creating it. And this is why this mind body work is so important, right? Because then we can set goals and commit to work with a non-attachment. But I did a video about this recently, like setting our goals that are achievable but uncomfortable, so that we're not setting ourselves up to fail and then go into the shame cycle, but
Yeah.
we're also pushing the edge.
I had
Yeah.
a client like that last
Mm,
year. She would put herself in a situation every month where she could barely afford her bills, but she
yeah.
would get herself out of it every month. And that's what we ended up realizing through the nervous system and the trauma
That was the
around it.
cycle.
Yeah,
Hmm.
she loved the adrenaline. We've just been speaking about this morning, Chris and I. These
Hmm.
PTSD survivors from the war, they would go in
Hmm.
abusive relationships because it gave them that adrenaline, that it's like reenactment of the trauma to, because they can deal with
The
it,
pattern
that they can handle it.
can
Yeah.
continue.
So
Yeah.
when we start to realize that and we go, hey, that's not serving me, that's not really helping me,
Mm. Mm.
it's not a good energy to be in. Like we start to become self-aware and people start to detach from that toxic, stuff that you don't want to be around. But I love how you were tying all this into self-love because it's the
Hmm.
layers of self-love. We're gonna have
Relate.
to do like a part two, part three, part four throughout the whole year because it's just where I'm still finding layers of myself for self-love.
Me
Like,
too.
look what happened last week when I came to see you. I had that pink outfit on. Like
Yeah.
last year, I would never have worn it. I was like, nah, I ain't got the figure for
Mm.
that. No, and I just wore it. I was like, fuck this. I'm wearing this. I look hot as
Hmm.
shit in
Hmm.
this outfit.
Hmm.
So love how that led into that conversation. The second question you
Mm.
asked me was,
Mm.
see, that's why I love asking questions because they just lead into these little avenues of like, it's great. The second question was, what memory would you relive? And I don't want to cry when I say this because like I'm getting teary already saying it. When I was thinking about it, it was like I was torn between one with my nan because like my nan, I really miss her. She died in 2017. She's just a lovely, just that when you picture that old grandma, that's just lovely and she bakes and she cooks. Oh my God, she's just the best. I love you so much, Nan. And I miss her so much. So I was
Mm.
gonna pick one of those, but I was like, those memories are really sacred and I'm grateful for them. But I think if I could relive a memory, it would be the moment I met Chris, like
Mm.
meeting him face to face after online for so long, and then actually like the first hug that we felt. So if you listen to this, Chris, this is my memory when we first met outside Disney, and I remember hugging him for the first time. It was like the world shook at that moment. Everything stood still. It was like we just held each other for about 3 minutes, which doesn't seem a lot, but it was at the time. And oh my God, it was the best. I could just relive that. I remember the nervous energy when I was getting the Uber to the hotel and
Mm.
I was like, I'm
Hmm.
meeting him for the first time. Oh my God, in person, because we've been talking
Mm.
for months online. So
Mm.
that's a beautiful story. That's one I'd love to relive right now because it was the
Mm.
best. And then the third question was if I could talk to anyone dead or alive and sit down with them. Instantly, when you
Mm.
asked me that, was Wayne Dyer. I
Yeah,
would love to
thought
sit
you'd
in a
say
room
that.
with Wayne Dyer and just be like, hey, right, let's go, let's talk. I've got all these questions.
Mm.
But what's interesting when you ask me that, Showy, is like we can talk to those people whenever we want. We can connect to them
Hmm.
in spirit. And I know I can call on Wayne whenever I want. Like he's a spiritual guy. Like he spoke about his spiritual teachers when he was writing books and
Mm.
he would like channel different people and talk to them. He had like pictures of them on the wall. And I'm doing the same with him. So it's they're definitely my three answers for the questions. But I was thinking like, what was the other thing I was going to say? With Wayne Dyer, he didn't really touch on self-love a lot because he had that masculine, the masculine energy.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's interesting how what he taught did indirectly associate with self-love because he's talking about, working on yourself, healing yourself, just all these like miracles that can happen. And while I've got it on my phone, would you like your joke?
I'm ready. Hit me.
So I read two to Chris this last night, and I said, "I've got two jokes." The first one, he said, "That is disgusting. You are not saying that to Shawi on air." It was
Oh, is that the one you chose?
well, no, but I might read both.
Okay. I was
Right.
like, the minute someone says that's disgusting, I'm like, tell
He's like,
me.
he looked at me and went, "Oh, that's disgusting." I was like, "Okay, what about this one?" And he went, "That one's funny." I was like, "Okay," but I was like, "Because you can't feel."
Should we keep the disgusting one for our Patreon?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Yeah,
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 he said
nice.
he
Because I
went,
don't want to miss out on it.
"Oh." So I was like, okay, maybe not. But I thought, you know what, maybe we should. So yeah, Patreons, you will get the joke at the end of this episode.
I can't wait.
This is the joke.
Okay,
Give it
I'm
to
ready.
me. Give it to me, she yelled. I'm so wet. Give it to me now. She could scream all she wanted, but I was keeping that umbrella. Yeah, it's like when I read it when I
I was
was
like,
first
I'm sure
reading
I've
it.
heard this. I'm sure I've heard it, but then I forgot what it was, and that was so good.
It's like I was
I
trying to
love
like
it.
make it like live like, give it to me,
Yeah.
give it to me. She yelled, I'm so wet, give it to me now. She could scream all she wanted, but I was keeping the umbrella. Love it.
Oh, that's good. I love it. That's a little bit of me.
Well, I had to kind of like carry the tradition on because that joke you said last week about the
Like a lot
lesbian
of us.
dinosaur, I remember like I remember seeing that other one because I think I mentioned it on a story and someone said, "What is the what do you call a gay dinosaur?" And I was like, "Oh God, here we go." And she said, "Megasaurus." It's like they're so stupid but so funny.
So
Like,
good. So good.
but
So
yeah, the
good.
other one it's quite disgusting, so I'll leave that for
Yeah, good. I can't wait. The anticipation shall build throughout the whole episode until the end.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna feel any shame when I read that joke. It'll make you laugh.
No. Yeah. Amazing.
So
Thank you.
you are welcome. I want to dive into a bit about your self-love journey because I know,
Mhm.
I want to ask you a question around it. How, if you could describe the self-love journey for someone else, how
Mhm.
would you describe it? And maybe I should ask these questions at the end, but it's just because I'm kind of like curious about your journey because I'm getting to know you as well. So it's like,
Yeah.
how would you describe the self-love journey to another person? And how has your self-love journey been?
So two parts, as in like a broad self-love journey and then me
Mm,
personally.
yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So when it comes to, if we speak about collective, everyone, I feel as if, and I really, I know that we are born as love. We are born as love. And I spent many years working with young children. My background is working in education. And when you see new babies and toddlers, they know that they're loved because they ask for what they need. They go, I need this, give me this. You know, they're not afraid to speak what they want. They're not afraid to express themselves. And they have this fucking like wisdom and potency. If you stare into the eyes of a newborn baby, oh my gosh.
Mm.
And I feel as if we are love. We're born as love. For some of us, along the journey of our lives, we forget that. And we forget that because we have stories put upon us from external places, potentially from past life experiences, from generational trauma, that take that truth away from us. And I truly believe that our biggest lesson and journey in life is to remember that we are love, to peel back the layers that take anything away from that lie. And so what's beautiful is it's a journey back home, right? So the self-love journey is a coming home to what we already have known in our bodies and our souls and our minds. And for some of us, that is a really fucking gnarly journey. You know, for some of us, we are having to remember something that seems so far away and that nobody around us might be telling us. And it's an initiation into it, but it's a returning to a place that we've already been. And I really love that. We're not going somewhere we haven't been before. We're
Mm.
going somewhere that we already have known. So that's how that's how I see it and I feel it. And I think that probably further down the track, non regardless to time, but however much we go into that, is that not only do we then remember that we are love, we remember that every single person is love. And so the more that we learn how to accept ourselves fully as that, the more that we are able to see the difference between people as love and also their behaviors that might not be a reflection of that. And so we
Mm.
get to fall into this deeper compassion, not only for ourselves, but for other people, because we get to navigate through life of like, okay, their truest essence is kindness and compassion and unity. And I can see how they have had experiences in life that have made them forget that. And so, not that it's our responsibility to remind everyone and to hold space for everyone, but we're able to discern between people's true nature and the behaviors that have taken them away from that. And what a blessing to be able to come to that point, right? And then I think the next step that expands outside of that is that everything is love. Like the trees and the birds and the ocean, and all the animals, and the essence and energy and everything is that expression. And the more that we get to lean into that, the more that we get to see through this lens of love, then we see everything around us as that. And that's when life changes. That's when the whole veil lifts and when life gets to change. And I'm not saying it's like this very linear journey. And I'm not saying we don't fall back to forgetting sometimes, but that's my interpretation of the journey of life and the part that love plays in it, and then that's the grounding. And what comes outside of that is being able to come into like love-based reciprocal friendships and, family dynamics and romantic relationships, because we've remembered that firstly. Like we've remembered, and so we can come into a place as love embodied, so it's a much more grounded way to interact with others. That's that. My journey, it's been fucking rough. I'm not going to glamorize it. I'm not going to glorify it. I started off my life, I speak about that knowing that your love is a baby. Yes, but from very, very, very early on, I'm speaking like in the womb and then first couple of months of life, I started forgetting that I was loved because I did not have safe love around me. I had a biological mother who did not have the capacity because she didn't remember in herself. So I did not receive unconditional love. I was not reminded that I was loved. And I was exposed to a lot of really harmful and quite damaging experiences in my early years that then led to a deep journey of that's not the right words, of being gifted the lesson of healing abandonment wounds, neglect wounds, mother wounds, things around self-worth, self-love. And it took a couple of decades. I started this really intense personal spiritual development journey about 9 years ago now. But that's a long time to feel like you are not loved. It's a long time to feel like you are unworthy, to feel like there's something wrong with you, that you're broken, to feel like for a large period of that time to feel as if you don't want to live, you don't want to be here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, oof,
I'm so glad you are here.
me too. It's been a fight.
Mm,
It's been a clawing back to this truth. And I would never change it for the whole world.
mm,
But I'm also really big on a lot of people see me now in my life and I'm very confident and embodied and I exude love, because
mm,
I've reclaimed it and it flows out of my heart. But so many people don't know that I had to fight so hard for that.
yeah.
And a lot of it was by myself.
Mm,
I've only really had community like this the last couple of years. I perpetuated the cycle of being unloved and unworthy in relationships and friendships and family dynamics because it's all I knew. What I knew from a very young age was love is unstable, love is uncertain, love is unkind. True love I don't deserve,
yeah.
that I would never experience. Those were really early on beliefs. And yeah, there's been some really ugly parts to it, and also there's been some beautiful parts to it, and I'm so grateful to be able to have had the experiences I had, because I have an unwavering faith that we all can remember. I
Mm,
have an unwavering faith in the work, the self-development work, and this journey, because the way I get to live now with just such a loving heart, not only for myself but for others, is possible for everyone. I
mm,
have absolutely no doubt, because if you can come from where I was, which was truly not wanting to be here and honestly feeling like I was the biggest piece of shit in the whole world, then anyone can come back. And I'm so passionate about being a person in people's lives to remind them, and hold that space in the work that I do and the preventative work that I do now with young people, because I truly feel as if the whole world will change when more of us can remember that love frequency, because we're going to raise the frequency back into that love place,
Mhm.
and we can come into much more authentic connection, and it's where we're going, and I know it is. And I have total faith. um yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it's
thank you
been
for
it.
sharing.
Yeah,
That's why
thank
I
you
asked
for
those questions,
witnessing.
because I think like there's so much of your story that I don't know of, and I know you mentioned it a couple of times about you, it was tough for you.
Oof, yeah.
My my journey with I'll answer the same two questions. So a
I'm
lot
just
of
going to
what
grab a
Showie's
tissue, my love, but I want to be
yes.
present with you. Let me grab a tissue.
Okay.
I don't want to miss seeing you. Hold on.
And just as a if anyone can hear gardening going on, or like my neighbors are getting gardening done, so just I'm rolling with it. This is part of the rawness.
I know, me blowing my snotty nose on the podcast. You are welcome.
You're making me teary. I was like, oh, there's definitely yeah, self-love, like I said, there's the heaviness to it too. There's this
Hmm.
heaviness to self-love as a woman. You touched on so many things that I would have said, about coming home to yourself and
Mm.
watching kids, watching babies. Like babies are the best. They're just so perfect and authentic, and they're just great. We learn so much from them. Wayne Dyer spoke about that. He said if I went to like parties, he'd spend time with the kids more than the adults. You get more joy out of the kids. With self-love, I think there's a couple of things I'm going to say for Patreon, because there's some things that are coming up in my mind that I'm like, they're
Mhm.
really, really good for like just, I'm going to save them for Patreon. One thing I do want to talk about is self-love for me. I didn't think I was worthy of love. I thought I was like, had to be this certain way
Mm.
to be loved. I am a Disney fanatic. I told you all that. Episode 1. I watched Beauty and the Beast yesterday. I was chilling out. It was a rainy day here in New Zealand, and I was like that Disney movie on. And it's funny, now I'm learning more about the nervous system and trauma. And I watched Beauty and the Beast in a totally different light yesterday. And that's my favorite movie. And I've watched it probably 300 plus times, probably even more in my whole life. And for the first time yesterday, I watched it with a different set of eyes, like
Hmm.
how traumatized the beast is. Like, he had you look his backstory, obviously, he was on his own, he was abandoned, things like that. And his rage and his anger, he just had this, and but Belle has this beautiful, she just has this beautiful energy. But she has her own issues, obviously. Her mum died, and her dad was seen as the weird scientist of the village. So she was picked out as odd. She was picked out as weird. And I resonate with Belle because that's how I was as a kid. I was not strange. I was like the weird one. Like because I was so deep, I was such a deep thinker. And I was like, and I remember being younger and things that I went through as a teenager, which I'll go into more in the Patreon, but just looking back and reflecting on what I went through. So self-love to me is what you said, Shawi, that journey back to self. It's back to your true essence, to your true nature. Like you said, you're born with everything you need. As soon as that egg and sperm collide, everything is made for you. Your eye color, your hair, your skin, who you are. It's all there. It's all made. So you have nothing to worry about. Is how I see self-love. I'm just explaining it as it comes out my mouth. So when the essence of you is created in your mother's womb, and it grows and it grows, you're comfy there for 9 months, around 9 months, some people obviously earlier. Everything's there for you. You don't have to worry, you don't have to ask for anything. This is just great. I'm cozy in here. There's obviously levels of trauma that can happen in the womb. But the part of it I want to talk about is when we get to Earth, like when we come out of our mother's womb and we take our first breath, not everything is there for us like it was in the womb. Like obviously I'm talking about nutrition and food and warmth and shelter. But as we grow older, we stop trusting in that everything that I have is here for me. Like, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Like that. Obviously, everyone's journey is different. Everyone had different childhoods. My childhood was very different to yours. I had loving parents, beautiful childhood. But the message I want to say in that is like, we're just this little thing growing and everything's made for us. We don't have to worry about our fingernails and our hair growing. Everything is just there. This energy we can't see, this innate intelligence that is growing our fingernails. It's beating our hearts. It's making us breathe. We don't have to think about it. You can't touch that. You can't physically say like
Mm.
it's just everywhere. But as we get older, we forget that everything around us, we have everything we need right now.
Mm.
So really, self-love, you never lost self-love. It's still there. It's like that's how like what you said about remembering it. It never was like like I say to people when they talk about their dreams and they want to like love themselves more. And I'm like, you don't go and pick up your self-love like that and go, oh, it's here and I found it. Let's put it back in my heart. No, it's here. It's in there. Go
Mhm.
explore. Go within. Like it's all
Mm.
there. And that's kind of like what I pictured it as, like soul remembrance. Everything never left you. It's not like been like burst out of you. Like let's go on a hunt around the world to find self-love, self-confidence. You know, it's all within you. And it just takes that self-awareness and that level of like when you keep growing and you get support and you get guidance and you meet the right people and you just it starts to come out. It's like it's there and you start to be like, it's like like I said, that lotus flower of just, it's like
Mm.
the lotus flower's gone and it's like you gradually just bloom.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm at this stage now where I'm like all these other petals are starting to grow and there's parts of my self-love journey that still come up. A big part of my self-love journey that like grew rapidly was when Chris and I were separated through COVID. You know, imagine the love of your life is in New Zealand and you're in the UK. You couldn't be further apart. You've got COVID going on. All you can talk is on Zoom and on FaceTime, which was twice a day because of our time difference. No physical touch. You know, insecurities were coming out like mad. You know, is he going to leave me? Is he going to get bored of waiting? And I will go into that in Patreon a lot more in detail, but I had to look at myself in those 18 months and be like,
Mm.
the trust that came out of the trusting myself and trusting my journey. And recently, the self-love journey has took that little bit of a tilt where Mel Robbins talks about let them. We spoke about this on Voice Note the other day. She has this let them theory. And if you look at the depth of that let them, I've really sat with it yesterday in reflection when I messaged you and I said, I'm grounded. And I just sat with my thoughts and I was like, okay, let me just like analyze this let them. Excuse me. It's about just allowing your journey to unfold. So this woman asked a question in the group for Mel Robbins and said, "So I'm just meant to let my husband cheat on me every weekend? Just let them." And this woman replied, and it was so beautiful what she said. And she said, it's not about letting him get away with that behavior. It's like it's affecting you. It's like it's hard to grasp. It's so hard to grasp, but when you grasp it, it's like, oh my God, it's like the freeing feeling of it. It's not that that behavior is right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. Like we're talking about polarity here, like what your right's different to my right, your wrong's different to my wrong. You all listening, your levels of right and wrong are completely different to me. It's the fact that, hey, that's a boundary for me. Like I'm not, I don't want to stay with someone who cheats on me every weekend, doesn't treat me well, you know. That's let them. Okay, great. Go do
Bye.
it. Yeah, like bye. You know, it's that level of it. It's not about because the ego part of us is like that behavior is disgusting. Like I can't let them do that. Of course you can. People are going to make their own choices, and that's what I
Mhm.
started to realize was being separated from Chris. If he wanted to leave me, which he didn't, but my insecurities, my little thing here was going, oh, like da 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 da. And he's like, if he
Mhm.
wants to leave you, there's nothing I can do about it. It's going to hurt and I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to be sad and I'm going to be going through
Mhm.
grief. There's nothing I can do about it. And that's where I started to realize the let them is much more than just, it's not about just relinquishing control. It's peace. It's inner peace. So I'm going to ask you
And
all a
it's not,
question now. If
yeah, babe.
Wayne asked this in his podcast, If I was to give you two wands, wand A, you can swish it and you can ask for anything and it will be given to you. The nicest car, the biggest house, the best husband, the best wife, whatever. You could have it. That's wand A. Wand B, no matter what happens in your life, you will always, always have inner peace. 10 years ago, I would have chose wand A.
Easy.
But now I'm like, wand B, because no matter what
Yeah.
happens in life, inner peace, like the amount of clients that have come to me the last couple of weeks
Mm.
saying, all I want is peace, Pip. And I'm like, it's
Yeah.
yours. It's there. You don't go out and find it. Think
Mm.
about the St. Francis prayer. I'm thinking about St. Francis
Mm.
now. The prayer of St. Francis. You don't ask for peace, give me peace. You become an instrument of thy peace. Allow me to
Mhm.
be peace. It's already within you. It's not something that's externally out of you. Everything you need is within you. So that
Mm.
is my self-love
Mm.
journey / description.
Mm. I love, thank you. I just feel like I went into this whole world while you were talking, and it just felt so true and it felt so beautiful. And what beautiful analogies to come into this conversation. That was just like divine. And I feel as if what you've just shared is this self-love isn't making meaning about how other people or circumstances respond to you, right? It's exactly what you said in that concept. Like loving yourself is having the ability to not make it mean something about you when the mother abandons you, when the partner cheats on you, when you are fired from the job, you don't get the business thing that doesn't happen, you don't come first place in the thing, you don't hit the weight goal you wanted, like whatever the thing is, when you don't make that mean something about your own worth and your own love for yourself and who you are, that's when we start cracking it, right? It's going, this is an external circumstance and everyone has free will and sovereignty, but I'm not going to make it mean that my partner cheats on me, therefore I deserve that.
Yeah.
It's going that I am rock solid in this and I allow everything else to move around, but I'm not going to then take that on as it impacting me and my worth and my love. That really encapsulates that, right? And there's something else in this that I feel like is a really important thing to speak into, which is that it's not linear. There is no, now I love myself. Like we want to be really clear on that. And you're going to hear us bringing this in so many times in these conversations. It is not, we begin the journey, final destination. My clients, it's one of the things I say the most and they fucking hate it. There's no final destination, guys. Like, I
No.
don't want to I hate to break it to you, but there is no like, now I'm fully healed and embodied and I love
No.
myself.
Yeah.
Like, there's not. However, there definitely is a deeper remembrance that we get to embody. And there's also, as the journey unfolds, we find we have more tools, we have more nervous system regulation strategies, and we have more people around us that are really supporting us in that, so that when the elements of that self-love theme are potentially coming in and being fractured, we know how to move through it quicker.
Yeah.
We know how to come back to love quicker. There's if anyone tells you like I found self-love now and I'm this, it's like, oh, cute. like
Keep
I
going.
love that. Yeah, I love that for you, but just be prepared.
It's like you get to like the destination, but you realize you got to do a U-turn and go all the way back.
Totally, there's more. And we say that with a place of like, you've got this, don't let that feel daunting, but also it becomes kind of more fun and more high frequency. Like I know I'm I'm navigating through an old core belief around love right now that's coming up really prominently in my life. I've been in it for the last couple of months and it's fucking deep and it is taking me to places. And what I'm finding in it though is that it's easier and it's softer and it flows more and it's lighter, and I'm having more fun with uncovering this part of myself, as opposed to, it going like, when I was like 15, 16, like the down was I want to not live, like I want to kill myself. Whereas the down now is like, okay, I'm like feeling some stuff. I'm gonna go to the gym and move it through. Like that's the difference, right? That's the difference. And when you commit further and you grow further in this space, and that's why we're like such big advocates for showing up in the personal spiritual development, because we want you guys to have the tools to just ease it, just
Yeah.
ease the process of this uncovering.
There's I love what you said. It's like sparked me on to say, I remember growing up in the UK, and like something that was always like, you think about the conditioning. We didn't really have social media until probably like well, maybe
Mm,
like late teens. I think Facebook came out in 2008, so I was 18 then.
mm.
You know, when we had MSN, we had
Yeah, we did.
like MSN was great. Like we used to like get home and have
Bebo.
all these nudges. Yeah. And then we had MySpace. You know, we had different
Yeah.
things. I think it was Pixar. We could make like a little profile. We put our best
Oh,
selfies
I
on
don't know that
there,
one.
you know, like flaunting our stuff. But I remember thinking like to love yourself for me was to be vain. I remember like that was a big
Ooh,
belief of
ooh,
like,
yeah.
so I heard it all the time. It's like, oh God, you just love yourself, don't you? And it's like, yeah, like now I'll be like, yeah, I do.
Mm.
Yeah. Is that like, that's great. But back then it was like, my belief was to
Negative.
love yourself is to be vain. You're
Mm.
so vain. You probably
Mm-hmm.
think the song is about
Mm-hmm.
you. That's just
Mm-hmm.
like that. It's so to love yourself for me was, I can't do that. That's to be vain. Like that's to be snooty and snobby. And so that was my reality. Now, this came up in my hypnotherapy course the other weekend, was our language about ourselves. Like how you, one of the tools I would give is, how are you talking to yourself? I never
Mm-hmm.
talk badly about
Mm-hmm.
myself. And if I do catch myself talking negatively, I go, hey, whoa, whoa,
Whoa.
stop.
I
You're
hate.
grounded. Go to bed. So I'm very more aware of like, obviously you've got like 70,000 thoughts a day. You can't analyze every 70,000 thoughts, but you will know like how self-critical you are. Like you put a dress on and you're like, I look fat in this, or you put makeup on, you go, oh, it looks, you know, you get to know how you talk about yourself. And on the hypnotherapy course of the weekend, we all do it. It's like conditioned in us. She would say, this woman wanted to ask a question, and our teacher said, I really encourage you to take to take your mute off and ask it on video. Don't ask it in the chat. So these women were like, oh, and they were like, my nervous system's going, oh. So, and it was kind of reflection on how you felt. And this one woman came on and she said, I'm not a very good speaker, but I'm going to try my best. And Caroline stopped her and said, you're an amazing speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but then
That
what we all
language.
do is when she said, I'm not a good speaker, is we're all in the chat box going, you're an awesome speaker, you're amazing. And that gives us some level of, oh, oh, like it's a not a defense mechanism. It's a tactic we use to
Mm-hmm.
receive like, what's the word? It's like it's like parent pleasing. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you get that, there's a word for it and I can't think of it. It's like showered with praise. It's like the praise you need it to give you that bit of confidence. So if I say to you, hey, I'm not a great podcaster. Actually, no, I'm a fucking amazing podcaster. It's like, but when you say it amongst girls or friends, they go, oh no, you look beautiful in that outfit. Oh, come on. No, you look great. You're so beautiful. Look at you. You got a nice bum. You got big boobs. Oh my God. And I'm like, so you do it to be like, oh God, yeah. Oh. But you got to realize that's got to come from you before it comes from anyone else.
Yeah.
The opinion about yourself is the
Unconsciously,
most
there's
important
that
opinion
wanting
you
it.
will ever
Yeah.
have of yourself. So that's kind of
Mm.
like where I was like, the self-love journey for me was like, if I love myself, because my sister's always been that really confident about herself. Like she's always been, and I wasn't just because of my background
Mm.
stuff. But like my mum would always joke and be like, oh, look, Sam, she absolutely loves herself. And it was always seemed as like vain and negative. Where I'm like, no, if
Mm.
you love yourself,
Mm.
that is an absolute blessing. And like you said, it's never an end journey. I'm loving myself more and more every single day. So I want to just bring that in as like a reflection of
Mm.
my journey because it was, you know, that's you just grow up with it and you don't realize.
And I did this reel on it, and it was the difference between confidence and arrogance.
Mm.
And it was depending where the frequency came from, right? And
Yeah.
it's exactly this. That self-confidence comes from abundance frequency, love frequency, whereas the arrogance comes from lack frequency and fear frequency. And it's just holding ourselves accountable in that, so funny. So my ex partner from my last long-term relationship, we were speaking about it one day, like after we'd separated, and he spoke about when he first met me. I was quite a bit older than him as well. So he was like 21, I was 27.
Yeah.
So he'd not really been around people of my women, bless it was kind of like younger girls, and also the work I'd done on myself. And he said, fuck, when I first met you, I and I mean, I was not where I'm at now. This was a few years ago. He's like, I couldn't work it out. I was like, is she just really arrogant? And then he's like, but then I realized you just fucking loved yourself,
Yeah.
and you had this confidence I'd never come across before, especially in a woman. And he's like, kind of threw me at first, but then like the more time I spent with you, he was like, oh, that's what self-love looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So and I know it's been a theme, and you probably have the same thing. And I have women and men, that they'll first meet me and they'll be like, whoa, and they'll be like, oh, wait, no, it's not that idea of what we think it is. It's like you praise yourself. I know it's even something in my middle child, so he's just turned 9. He had this like resistance to speaking really highly of himself.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was really interesting. And so I do it all the time, be like, yeah, I'm really good at that. I'm really proud of that. And I did this today. Be like, do you guys want to hear about this thing I did today? Or and if, at first, probably about 6 months ago, I noticed he'd be like, are we allowed to like talk about ourselves like that? And I don't know where that had come from, obviously, but I was like, yeah, we are. Yeah, we are. Like, what are you celebrating today, babe? And he was like, oh, okay, cool. And middle child, one of 5 at his dad's, one of 3 at my house. And Pisces, beautiful. So I love all my kids, but it's just been his birthday and I fucking love him. And yeah, so we're really like working on that with him as well. I'll be like, yeah, what are you celebrating today, babe? What are you really proud of? And so teaching that difference, and that we're allowed to celebrate ourselves when we can take responsibility for it being unattached to the outcome, right? Unattached to validation from others. And so it's just that responsibility that we have to have in ourselves, right? Of like, am I showing up in this place of I have felt this and it is now pouring outside of me? Or like you said, am I trying to pull it in because there's this hole inside of me? And also, it's okay if you're noticing there's this element of pulling it in to bring it in, just be aware of it, and that's often a
Yeah.
sign of like, okay, I just need to dig a little bit deeper, do some more of this work, get some really good people around me. There's no judgment in either of those things. But if we can start to lean more into it being that, well, then we'll find more inner peace.
I love that. There was something that came up before, like when you want to boast about yourself when you're younger, and then you get a comment, "Don't be so big-headed," or your head's just hit me,
Oh.
like that kind of stuff. So to boast about yourself is seen to like be big-headed, and it's actually like you said, that
Mm-hmm.
arrogance versus confidence.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'm going to touch on is the too much. So
Oh.
the too much has been like put too much in the middle of a piece of paper, and then self-love evolves around that. Like that's my
Mm-hmm.
reality. So there's one thing I want to touch on in Patreon. It's about being too much sexually. Like that's something I want to talk about in Patreon
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Oh.
I've been ghosted and been told I'm too much in that area. So that's going to be saved, juicy save for Patreon because I'm very high libido and very sexual. So that's a little taster and a little, oh, I want to know more
Mm-hmm.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
I'll
feel
bring that up
like
in
Kitty's going to
Patreon.
be activated in that conversation.
Yes, that's like something that I really, because self-love isn't just about men and women and your relationship. Self-love is relationship to self. It's self-love. So I always thought self-love was about loving yourself more so you could manifest your dream man, your dream woman, whatever. It's actually not. So it's like
Mm-mm.
realizing that I'm going to talk about this obviously in Patreon, but it was more like being ghosted for being too sexual. So that was that too muchness again. That's why I bring it up. So friends used to say to me in high school, "You're too naive, Pip. You're too loud. You too this. You too that. You're too tall. Too whatever it was." And I remember just being like, "Okay, so I'm too much for people. I'm too much for." Like I said this to you yesterday. I messaged you yesterday because it came up for me when you're in a trigger. It's like everything you've been triggered about comes in full frontal.
Uh-huh.
It's like everything goes everything's there. And I was texting Showy about something personal I was going through, and my inner child was like, "It's you too much. You've just sent her like 6 texts. You're too much. Back off." And I'm like, hmm. So I sat with it, and then part of me was like, "I'm gonna just be raw and say it. Like, I'm really sorry if I am too much sometimes when I text you and things, because I get really like, when I talk, I love talking about my feelings." And your response was absolutely perfect. Like, and I thought, even sharing it, like, there's so much judgment of me sharing it. Like, in that moment, I was like, I'm sharing this. This is really like vulnerable for me to share it, but I'm sharing it with someone who gets it and who understands it. And that's the key, isn't it? That safeness around
Mhm.
sharing. And that's why like we're doing this as well. And that's why in the Patreon we're going to be getting into that really deep stuff of what we've actually gone through as individuals, you know, as like some of the stuff I've been through. I'm like, I just wanted a man to love me. I just wanted that Disney dream
All of
prince,
you.
you know? And I
Mhm.
do have I remember one of my best friends, we don't speak anymore, but she said to me, "Oh, Pip, you just live in a fantasy dream world because you love Disney so much and fairy tales aren't real." And I went, "Well, my fairy tale's real." So, and now it's
Uh-huh.
like I'm actually living it, bitch. So,
Mhm.
you know, even though it's not a fairy tale you see on the movies, it's my version
Oh,
of my
it's
fairy
so
tale.
much more real.
Yeah. It's the
Mm-hmm.
realness of life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I laugh about Disney now because I'm going to start doing a few reels about Disney because I just love. I was like, how can I incorporate Disney into my work? Because I just love it. And I was like, I can talk about trauma and the nervous system of these different princesses and their
Mm-hmm.
trauma and stuff. And you think about like they depict that these like this princess and prince and they marry and it's like, hang on a minute, what's with the Disney should do the after story of like they've moved into
Mm-hmm.
the castle, they have to be a princess, you know, what comes after that? They should really do like a series of, hey, here's real life, here's what's gonna happen, you know, and you're gonna get
There's
triggered,
a
you're gonna have to do nervous system work.
mm-hmm. There's actually a great series of children's books called The Land of Stories. My kids have
Oh,
really got into them. And it's yeah, if you guys have got kids, it's really cool because it's like about these kids that go into the fairy tales. And it's like there's like Cinderella, when she moved into the castle, and it's all like for kids, but then they have a baby, and then the pressure of like everyone expecting all these things on her, and she's like,
love
I didn't
it.
really want to be like part of this
I'll
royal
read them.
family, and now like all of that stuff, which I just love. It's a great series of like novels if you've got kids. It's yeah, it's
Oh
really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, like you said, it's
Um,
like the movies put this like because I would watch the movies and be like, that's gonna be me. Maybe not in a castle, but that's gonna be me. And I was like, Princess
yeah,
Pippa.
maybe a castle.
Yeah. And again, the too much, like anyone
Hmm.
listening resonates with that, like how I changed too much, how I kind of reversed that and healed that, still healing that is changing that I'm too much to I'm enough
Hmm.
because everyone's version of enough is different. So, and this is why boundaries come in. So boundaries is going to be another topic that we talk about is I'm Pippa, and if I'm just myself, Shawi can take me as I am. But then Shawi can say, when this happens, Pip, that's a boundary for me. Okay, great. And there's that level of like respect between friendships and between
Hmm.
relationships. So,
Hmm.
like, for example, I'll give you a raw example right now of what happened on Saturday night with my husband and I. His mum's not well and there's a lot of stuff going on personally. And he needed me more than I needed him in that moment. You know, that balance in a relationship, there's just a tip of a scale sometimes. But Chris never told me that. So that's where the communication stops. So instead of being like, I need you today, Pip, communicating that, there wasn't, and that's fine, that can happen. But Saturday night, I just offloaded. But I just verbal diarrheaed all over him. But and it was a lot for him to take. So
Hmm.
that's that example of like a boundary of I felt too much then. So I said to him yesterday, we had a really good chat and we always hug it out and we love each other so much. He was like, I'm really sorry. He's like, I said, like, I just went into that trigger of I'm too much. I talk too much. I share too much. So I was so quiet yesterday and he knew that. He knew. He's like, so his trigger came up about his family, and then my trigger came up about feeling too much. And we both came together and we shared that trigger and we were like, okay, how can we manage this next time? Can you let me know that you need me and I can just take a step back? And isn't that beautiful? Like, I'm so proud of us for doing that. And that's why like relationships aren't perfect. You're gonna piss each other off. You're gonna get under each other's skin. Sometimes you're gonna be like, oh, but then you come back together and unite together and you go, hey, that's why I was triggered. That's why I was triggered. How can we manage it next time? That's it. Again, like that pressure of not having to solve everything all at once, just that small
Mm.
step in your relationship is massive. It's huge.
And it just takes that awareness, right? And that can be in relation to friendships, parenting, romantic relationships, family dynamics, of that self awareness of like, okay, that is coming up as a trigger, but now let's be us looking at how we can be solution based, which you guys do so well. I too muchness. I literally shared on my personal Instagram this week was you, for one person, you are, oh no, I want to get the exact quote
Get it?
right
Yeah.
because I don't want to fucking butcher it because it came
Yeah.
through so clearly. Like it came through as a really
Well,
big
you shared
download.
it and I was like, yeah, that's perfect for me.
Yeah, that's what it was. So what I shared was one person's too much is another person's, is that all you've felt safe to show, baby? Give me more. I want all of you. And that's that difference, right? Of like you said that you transmuted your I'm too much. My transmutation of I'm too much is I'm a fucking lot and I fucking love it. Like
Same.
I am a fucking lot and I
I'm
want to
high
be a
maintenance,
lot in this
baby.
world. Yeah, because I'm like I'm sending fucking ripples, and I'm done with putting a fucking barrier
A
on my
fence
own
around you. Yeah.
muchness. Yeah, and I resonate so much. I was the you're too emotional, you're too loud.
Too
I still get the you're too
sensitive.
loud sometimes. You're too
Mm.
sensitive, you feel too much. You're too passionate, you're too fierce, you're too fiery, you're too aggressive. I literally just, I don't know if you saw. Yeah, so I had a huge emotional release this week. It was massive. There's huge generational things that myself and particularly my daughter were moving through energetically. I started bleeding Friday. Interestingly, so did my 12-year-old daughter,
Wow.
aligning with the moon. The time around my son's birth is big. And it's the most vulnerable emotional release I've actually shared via social media. And it felt really right to share. And I had someone commenting in there that was like, first of all, go get therapy, which I thought was really cute, because all of our most recent neuroscience supports somatic therapy, not talk therapy, but that's okay. But what was, and then I replied, and he said, what's your sources for your information? I gave a book recommendation. I recommended the course I'd done, and then this person's one of their comments was, you obviously need to go and get some more work done based on how aggressive you are. And I was like, whoa,
The
okay, so this is
judgment.
still
Yeah.
sitting here. Yeah, and I was really beautifully articulated. I'm very good in these circumstances of not being personal and not bringing emotions into it, but articulating myself really well. And I was like, isn't it so interesting how, particularly as a woman, when I express myself clearly, and when I show some emotion, and when I'm very highly intelligent and well articulated, I then have this label of aggression or aggressive. And I was like, oh, okay, beautiful. Still got some more work to do here. Not me, the collective and society. And
Mm.
so this too muchness, yeah, I'm really excited to hold you guys in this uncovering of your muchness, because your muchness is fucking needed.
And it is, yeah.
Like it's needed. We need you guys in your like most fully expressed, beautiful versions of you, because there's magic and wisdom that is sitting there in this like holding yourself down. And I think we're done as well with the blaming in that. I know for me it was I blamed this person, this person, this person for me not being in my full expression. Let's like send that away with love and take back the responsibility we each have of continuing to find out how much more of ourselves we can bring. Like
Yeah.
that's exciting.
The word blame, we're trying to like ban it in our house because we're trying to tell, not tell, encourage the children to be like,
Mm.
one child will say, well, he made me angry.
Yeah,
I'm like, you actually
no
made
one's made
yourself
you
angry,
angry.
which is okay.
or
But
has
it's
or their
that,
behaviors was
yeah,
challenging, which is true,
yeah,
absolutely. But
yeah,
taking away from the person and the behaviors, right? And then taking ownership.
definitely. And I think it's
Oh.
that story, that Buddha story. I think I read it on the first one about the gift. Like, who
Mm.
does it belong to?
Hmm.
It's like if you don't take the gift, it belongs to the other person.
Hmm.
Same with the
Hmm.
emotions and feelings. Like, if you want to take on someone else's energy, that's your choice to do that. And I think
Hmm.
but it's one thing I want to finish on is when you're on a self-love journey, like you mentioned, Showy, it's like it's not easy. It can be really rough and it can be really upsetting, deep. It brings up a lot of emotion. It brings up a lot of like
Mm.
old memories, old wounds of not feeling enough, of feeling too much, of not feeling lovable, of feeling abandoned, of feeling rejected. There's just so many layers to each and every person. We're all so different, but ultimately we're the same because we're all love. So one of the things that I would say is find a tribe that sees you. Like when you were really
Mm.
upset on Friday, all I have to say to someone is, I see you. Because when I see you, it means I just see you. I don't, sometimes it's not about what you say. I'm starting to realize that it's not about like if you were here with me today, which you will be eventually, I will just look at you and be like, sometimes it's silence, it's holding that energetic space for you to just cry. Like instead of just being like, oh, you're too aggressive, it's actually that's a release and that's how you release and that's beautiful. I see
Mm-hmm.
you. Just those three little words, I see you, is enough to be like, there's no judgment there. I just see you and I love her as you are. And that's what I'm like for anyone listening when you're on this self-love journey is find your tribe. They're there. You pull them to you, manifest them. They are there waiting to help you. Friends,
They're also in this
guides.
podcast community.
Yes, they
Like
are.
they'll be in this podcast community.
Exactly.
Get amongst what's happening in the comments on our Instagram. Like that, these are
Yes.
the people that we're calling in. Like if you don't have a tribe, we will we'll give you the tribe.
Yeah. And in the Patreon, when we put the little snippet in after this, there's going to be comments. People are going to be putting like, I'm on this journey. So again, we're going to have that community building there as
Mm.
well. So just like Shawi said, join us on there because we're going to create that safe space where we see you. We see you. And I think
Mhm.
that's one of my biggest takeaways for you guys is find the people that you feel safe around. Shawi said an amazing quote last week. Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. Those stories are your self-love stories, your hurtful stories, your shitty stories, your painful stories. When they're shared in safe spaces, that's my message for the end of this podcast
Mm.
is find those people because I had to cut out a lot of toxic friends, especially before I moved to New Zealand, that just weren't serving me. And that's one thing is like I read a holistic psychologist, Nicola Perez, she put a post on about going in the cocoon phase. When you're on the spiritual journey, you want to go in the cocoon phase all the time. I'm like, hey, I just want to stay and just be cozy in my home. And then that's okay. Part of the journey is going into that hibernation to
Mm.
like I said, go within, find those parts of you that you've forgotten about and remember them again.
Yeah, thank you. That felt like a really beautiful space to
Mm.
finish this conversation on for today. There are definitely other parts of this that will come up as we, yeah, uncover some more of this.
I have a book recommendation and I've got a really interesting question to ask you. It's actually not a question, it's a
Ooh.
request for next week.
Oh.
Yeah, that joke's hilarious. Wait till you get into the next in the Patreon. I'm going to say that joke. The book recommendation, if you haven't heard of him, he's a really good author. It's a really simple but powerful book. So if you're not really a big reader and you like want something quite manageable that isn't, too thick, is Vex King, Good Vibes, Good Life, and it's based around self-love. He's just great and he writes simply but powerfully. And my quote has always been happiness is your birthright because it is.
Amen. Mm-hmm.
You don't go out and find happiness. Happiness is already within you.
Yeah. Love is your birthright. It's so beautiful.
So
Okay,
my
honey.
request for you is
Uh-huh.
for next week, I want you
Mm-hmm.
to, and use your intuition for this, I want you to just like
Mm-hmm.
go to your bookshelf and pick a
Mm-hmm.
book. Just like close your eyes and just put your hand over your bookshelf. And I want you to pick a book. And when we start recording next week, I want you to take that book in your lap and I want you to just flick the
Mm-hmm.
pages and just stop
Mm-hmm.
and read a
Mm.
paragraph or a phrase from that book.
Oh, I love that.
Because I
How
was like, I
good.
wonder if
Love
it'll
it.
like spark I wonder if it's going to be perfect for the topic.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I love things like that because it just see what
I love
happens and
that.
see what it sparks up. So that's my request for next week instead of a question.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm here for it.
So we really appreciate you listening to us, you watching us. We go live in 2 days. We're on YouTube. We're on all the podcast platforms. I know this is gonna just explode. I just know it is. Like we're gonna. I know.
I might the kid before Christmas.
Like
It's like 2 days before Christmas.
open my presents in 2 days. And I think it's just it's that energy we've got behind it. Like Shawi got upset today. I was teary. Like there's every
So,
emotion on these episodes, and I was
so
in tears last week.
yeah,
That's the rawness that you're receiving
that's
from us
it.
both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we see you. We see you, and we want
Mm.
to create that space for you for,
Mm.
hey, I just need some girls to
Mm.
hang about with just so I can put like how I'm
Mm.
feeling today and that tribe that sees you and doesn't judge you and just goes, hey, and I know what you're going through and I'm here for you.
Mm.
And it is like that, just I see you. And I think that's why I like the Patreon. I want to build that community where like we're just holding that safe, warm, motherly, beautiful space that's needed.
Mm. We got you, girl.
We got
Or
you.
also, or also our non-girl listeners, because I'm
Mhm.
100% getting behind it, not only being women identifying that are listening to us.
I know.
Come and learn,
Come and
learn with
learn.
us.
Yes, exactly. What would
Mm.
like what would you ask the males in the feminine space? That's actually quite interesting. But yeah, we
Mm.
just every episode we just love like self-love. We can dive into more episodes around this, but we've got so many beautiful, magical, powerful topics to talk about.
Mhm.
So yeah. Did you have any book recommendations or quotes or anything, Shower, before we finish?
There's a quote. I have it tattooed on my leg actually around love, self-love. And it was really beautifully translated into a poem in French by my grandfather, who was actually that photo right there, which is
Oh
cute.
yeah.
Who's passed away now. But in English, it is the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. And so it's allowing yourselves to be love and give love, but also have the open heart to be able to receive love. And that only comes from this embodiment of love and self.
I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
one of my
You're
faves.
actually inspiring me to share my ultimate favorite quote of all time
Mm.
because it's around love for each other. And
Mm.
it's by Hafiz, and I want that tattooed on me somewhere for sure. And it says, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, "You owe me." Look what a
Mm.
love like that can do. It can light up the whole world.
Oh,
Woo, making me
oh,
emotional.
we're gonna cry again. The
Ah!
beginning of our Patreon's gonna be us crying again.
That's my favorite quote of all time.
So
Wayne Dyer put
beautiful.
that in a book once, and I remember he said it on, I think it was The Shift. And it hit me.
Mm.
It hits you, doesn't it? It's like it gives me
Mm.
goosebumps. I've
Mm.
literally got goosebumps everywhere. It's
Mm.
about that level of like loving just because, not because what's in it for me.
Yes.
That's the ego. What's in it for me? The true
Mm.
loving self is I'm just gonna love you.
Mm. It's the right thing to do.
Mm. Oh, what a beautiful way to
Thank
end.
you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, my love. Thank you for holding space for me today and inviting me to share a bit more of my story. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you to all of our listeners. We love you. We love you so much. And we set an intention that from this conversation, you allow yourself and your own heart to just receive a little bit more love.
So grateful for you and grateful for your wisdom, grateful for your knowledge, your rawness, your
Mm.
beauty, your heart,
My muchness.
your muchness. I love it. Give me more and
Give me more. Give
give
me
me
more,
more.
baby.
We are going to be recording a Patreon recording right after this. So if you want to join us, please join our Patreon. We would love to have you in there with so much love. And we just can't thank you from the bottom of our hearts for just spending your time watching us and listening to us. It means the world.
Mm-hmm.
So take care,
Mm-hmm.
guys, and we'll be back next week with another juicy, juicy episode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.